Hi, and welcome everybody. Merry Christmas. It's Monday, December 19th. Welcome to the Winner Circle Sports Betting Podcast. I'm Ross Benjamin of RBWins.com. Like every Monday, I'm joined by Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com. And Doug, how are you? How was your weekend?
Everything was good, Ross. Had a number of things go my way. Had a 6-unit play in college football on Fresno State, which was an easy winner there. The other two games didn't go as planned, but hey, I only gave out 3 picks so far. Lots of things going on for the rest of the bowl season, including a couple games on Tuesday and Wednesday. So that's going to be available. I had another winning week in the NFL. That's 4 out of 5, and the only thing that didn't go my way was the push on the Chargers for my 7-unit best bet. But just football best bets in the last 7, 6-0-1. Can't complain about that.
No, not whatsoever. That'll make you a lot of money. And if you could do that the rest of your life, you'll be living pretty good, my friend. Anyway,
tell you what, I just take it over the next couple of weeks again.
Yeah, how about that Minnesota Vikings game on Saturday? Unfortunately, we're on the opposite sides of each other, but what a roller coaster! You know, if you had Minnesota and you're laying 3.5, 4 points, you're down 33-0 at the half. You're just about write the game off and say, okay, next, and then they come roaring back and end up winning the game by 3 in overtime. But if you had the Vikings, it's like talk about a roller coaster of emotions. Well, I guess you could say that for both ways because I had that Doug Upstone feeling in me that I had a 33-0 lead. I had 4, getting 4. And here I am. I go, here we go. We're going to overtime and I'm going to lose by 6. So, and I'm sure you were squeezing for a touchdown the opposite way, but just incredible to start the day on Saturday.
Yeah, well, just as I texted you, in this case, I lost the same game twice, and in your case, you won the same game twice. And that's just how it turned out. But yeah, it was nuts. I don't know how to describe it. But then nothing changed. I mean, Miami was supposed to be dead in the water going to Buffalo because of the cold.
They played them tough. An issue. Yeah.
But had a 29-21 lead in the fourth quarter. Okay, that one. I mean, then we had Dallas and Jacksonville yesterday. The Raiders, beyond belief.
Oh boy!
How that turned out. I mean, and in Kansas City, they had a 200+ yard advantage on Houston. Had to go to overtime and needed a fumble and a late touchdown in overtime to get it. So it was as wild as a day as. I mean, I can't think of one that is more wild. And it's the first time in NFL history for a full weekend of games that I believe there was 11 games, and I could be wrong on this, 11 games that were decided by one score, I should say, and all 16 games were decided by 11 or fewer points.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very competitive weekend in the NFL, and who can complain when that happens? I know I watched the NFL Red Zone when the Bills aren't on, and I remember the host going, it's getting to be the witching hour, like he always says, going into the fourth quarter to 1 o'clock games, and all of the games being played at 1 o'clock were 1-score games going into the fourth quarter. And then, the late games, like you just said, the Chargers, that was a 1-score game. The Patriots, the way that ended, that was a 1-score game. And it slips my mind who the other game was. The Sunday night game ended up being a 1-score game. The New York Giants, I was surprised. I thought they were dead. Talk about dead in the water. I thought they were going to, lay an egg in Washington, and they just came up and played a tremendous game against the Commanders. My hat's off to Brian Daboll. He took a club that not a lot of people thought they would win more than 5 games this year, if that. And here they are, 8-5-1 in a playoff spot going into the last 3 weeks of the regular season. So it's been quite a year, Doug. And
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm good.
And speaking of that game, the two things that stood out in particular was the last play for Washington. I mean, it looked like I had nothing in the game, so it didn't matter to me one way or the other. Yeah. But it looked like Curtis Samuel was being fitted for a human backpack. Okay. With the way the guy that was on his back and the way that he was. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it was pass interference. It wasn't obvious pass
Yeah.
interference, but it was. But then the other one that got me was, and really was even a bigger factor, was Terry McLaren, okay, with an official literally, what, 5 feet from him? And the official says, you need to move up, okay? And he still didn't move up far enough to get on the line of scrimmage, which
Yeah.
he had to do. And so some people were blaming the ref. I read on Twitter and stuff like that. And here's my simple answer to that. Terry McLaren, I looked this up. He's 27 years old. Okay. He has likely played football half of his life, or, close to it. Okay. And probably at least half of that as a wide receiver. So if you don't know by the time you've reached this point of your life in football, playing professional football, basically since he was 21 years old, if you don't know how to line up properly, you know what? You deserve a penalty.
Yeah. Especially
Simple as
when
that.
the referee is giving you a hint.
I mean, the referee told him. I mean,
Yeah.
they have it. I saw it on there that somebody had the thing where they had the conversation back and forth. McLaren says, "Am I good?" He goes, "No." So he moves up another foot forward. He goes, "I'm not good." Referee doesn't say anything. And the play runs. The flag
Yeah.
comes out. I
Yeah.
mean, I just
Yeah.
thought
How
that
many
was hilarious.
warnings do you need? I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
I,
I think it's a professional courtesy just to let them know. But
right.
yeah, that's why, folks, if you're watching an NFL game, you'll see the receivers once in a while point toward the referee when they're lined up and waiting for a head shake or not. Because if they're not on the line of scrimmage, it's an illegal formation penalty. And that's exactly what transpired there. And again, shame on him for that occurring in that spot in that big of a game. Anyway, all right. So we're going to be talking college football today. We're going to be talking bowl games. Doug will be covering the Texas Bowl between Ole Miss and Texas Tech. And I'll be looking at the Cheez-It Bowl between the Florida State Seminoles and the Oklahoma Sooners. One game goes, meaning Doug's game goes on the 28th of December, and mine goes on the 29th of December. So you have plenty of time to get these picks in, folks. I know we haven't done well of late after being on the tear for 7 weeks as a group. But, hang in there because this is what we do, and it's bound to happen. You can't stay at 63% over a 7-week period of time on free picks because I'll remind you, folks, we want to win these free picks, right, Doug?
Absolutely.
But by the same token, folks, we can't be giving out free picks that our paying clients are paying for. It's just simple business 101. So I had one client or one viewer pop in and say, let me know if one of your handicappers is giving out free picks that he's selling online. Well, why would you do that? You know what I mean? The bottom line is, folks, we're getting documented online. Why do you need proof? Come on, geez. Some people are just ridiculous. And another guy wants, I gave out that Louisville pick last week, and he goes on and on about the guys at Cincinnati are missing. Folks, look at the bottom line is this. If we know who's missing and we know who's out and who's out because of the transfer portal, injury, or opting out for the NFL draft, whatever have you, you don't think the odds maker knows that? It's all built into the line. If you want us to sit here and talk about players when breaking down a game, then we should change this to a fantasy channel because we're not going to do that. Okay, it's about beating the number. You'll hear us talk about players from time to time, but folks, at the end of the day, we need to beat a number. And yes, I'm handicapping the game just the way it is. Any thoughts, Doug? And then we'll go on to our free picks. That was a little aggravating for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just, I agree with you. I mean, I talked to somebody recently and ran into a similar thing where they were asking about, players and stuff like that. And it's like, players are part of the team.
Yeah.
Okay. And so with it being a team, it's a team sport. You're not betting on players, you're betting on the team. Now, how the players play certainly impacts the outcome. But still, there's only in that case, the one thing I recently heard a comment from somebody, and it made a lot of sense to me. Is that each individual handicapper, no matter who they are doing I would assume the best of their ability, especially if they, like Ross and I've talked about it, if you have some length of time in this business, is that you're with trying to do, you're handicapping the game. Now, how the game plays out, okay,
Yeah.
is it, there's nobody that knows. We'd like to think we know as best as we can with the information that we have,
Yep.
but we certainly don't know everything, and we don't know about the frame of mind of every single player or certain individuals. We don't know how referees are going to call games. I mean, it's all this other stuff that goes into it. So it's an inexact science in that regard, but the idea is to make money and be as right as often as you can. And you're going to
Yeah.
go through ups and downs. And the best analogy always to me for sports betting is just think of it as a baseball team. The best teams in baseball basically lose 60 games a year. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's just how it's going to go. And they're only playing roughly 6 months. We're doing this 12 months a year, for
Yeah.
year after year. So it's not easy. Okay. And,
No. If it
but
was, everybody be doing it, right, Doug?
absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So enough of that. But folks, again, you'll hear me bring up a player like Derrick Henry. Last week, I bring him up because he's an elite running back, and the team he's playing against yesterday, is one of the worst in the league at stopping the run. I mean, situations like that, yes. But for me to sit here and start talking about a bowl game and naming off every player that has opted out, whether it be through the transfer portal or whatever means, we're not going to do that. It's senseless. It's all baked into the line kind of thing. So anyway, let's get to our games. Ole Miss in Texas Tech, and this is an intriguing matchup, Doug. Very good matchup, I think. Texas Bowl will be played at NRG Stadium in Houston, home of the Houston Texans. Take it away, my friend.
Yeah, and that's on December 20th. That'll be the last game of the day. It's going to be a 9 o'clock Eastern start. So Ross, if he's going to watch this, he's got to stay up late in order to get the final score on this one. But we've got 8-4 Mississippi going up against 7-5 Texas Tech. Now, after a hot start, the Rebels were 7-0, and but there was an issue coming, and pretty much everybody knew it. Okay, is that the back end of their schedule was tougher, and it proved to be. They only went 1-4 in their last 5 games, 1-3-1 against the spread. Their defense was expected to be improved, and in the first 7 games it was, but it was also against lesser competition. Then when the competition got tougher, the defense wilted. I think they got tired, got worn out, had some injuries like all teams do. And as it turns out, at the end of the year, their numbers were nearly identical to what their opponents had, how they had performed in terms of points scored and yardage. So, pretty much what you would expect from them. Now, speaking of players, Ross, I'm going to mention one here. Quarterback Jackson Dart. Okay. He showed to me this year, watching Mississippi play several games, that he is a good, but certainly not elite quarterback. Okay. Doesn't throw particularly well when pressured. You can see why, like he and several others that went to USC originally ended up not holding the job there and taking command of the situation because he's just not that great. So the best way for Mississippi to move the ball is running it, and they're third in the country in doing that. And when that's working, Dart can complement it by passing. Now Texas Tech, they roared into down the stretch, 3 straight wins and covers. As you would expect, the program is still an aerial attack. They ended up 13th in the nation in passing at over 307 yards, and they have a nice complementary running game that adds about 160 yards. So they're the number 23 offense in the country, going up against number 8 for Mississippi. Texas Tech defense, pretty much the same story as Mississippi's. They allowed what their opponents gave up. In this case, though, they played more offensive teams, so they gave up 29 points per game. Ole Miss is at 24. So in this bowl game, Ross, as far as picks goes, we got Mississippi at -3.5. I'm going to follow some bold principles in this one. Number one, Red Raiders coach Joey McGuire, first year, that means first bowl game. He's going up against Lane Kiffin, a bowl game veteran. In this case, advantage Ole Miss. Also, this is one of those quirky ones that I'm assuming, Ross, well, I'm not assuming, I know that your database has this as well. Teams that are off 3 straight losses going into a bowl game, facing a team that is off 2 straight wins and covers, the in this game, the team that has lost comes out of that game 13-3 straight up and
Wow.
12-4 against the number. So I'm taking Mississippi minus the 3.5 over Texas Tech in the Texas Bowl.
That's a perfect textbook example of why it's not it's an inexact science, I should say, like Doug alluded to. You got a team coming in on a losing streak versus a team finishing red hot, and the team on the losing streak is the favorite in this game, and that's who Doug likes. So, Ole Miss minus 3.5 over Texas Tech. And yeah, you make a good point about Lane Kiffin against a rookie head coach. We'll see what happens there, but I like Doug's chances in that game. I'm going to take a look at Florida State and Oklahoma. That game will be played on Thursday, December 29th. It's the Cheez-It Bowl, played in Orlando. And right now, Florida State is an 8-point favorite in this contest, according to Caesars. So here's the thing. I mean, at the beginning of the year, if these two teams would have squared off, it would have been somewhere around a pick'em game. But because of the play to both teams throughout the course of the year, and especially how they finished, Florida State here is much the better team at this juncture. That doesn't mean they're going to win, and it certainly doesn't mean they're going to cover, but it's worth pointing out. Oklahoma started out 3-0. They finished 3-6. And here's the thing. They finished 6-6, Doug, yet just goes to show you what brand names, mean in college football. Despite a 6-6 record for Oklahoma, this is only going to be the second time all season they're an underdog. So go figure. Florida State, who they finished the year 5-0 straight up and 4-1 against the spread to finish with a 9-3 record. So Mike Norvell seems to have the Seminoles on the right path after being highly criticized the first couple seasons at the helm in Tallahassee, where expectations are always high. And Florida State, during this 5-game win streak, has scored 38 points or more on each occasion. As a matter of fact, the exact average, they're averaging 43.6 points and 488.6 yards per game during this win streak. So their offense has really come on, and their defense not too bad as well. They allowed 17 points or less in 4 of those 5 wins, in addition to 291 yards or fewer in 4 of those 5 wins. So a combination of real good offense and real good defense. On the other hand, Oklahoma, Brett Venables, the much heralded defensive coordinator for years at Clemson, takes over at Oklahoma. They started out real good defensively, Doug, but man, oh man, down the stretch, they gave up 38 points in 6 of their last 9 games. During that stretch, they also allowed 486 yards or more on 5 of those 9 occasions. And I just think it's a bad matchup for the Oklahoma Sooners. There's a reason why Florida State is better than a touchdown favorite in this game. I would guess that because it's Oklahoma, there will be a contingent of people that will still back the Sooners as a better than touchdown underdog. And I think they're making the wrong move by doing so, because I'm going to take Florida State here. I'm going to lay the 8 over Oklahoma. And Mr. Doug Upstone, he likes the Ole Miss Rebels minus the 3.5 over the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Please note, folks, Doug's game goes on Thursday, the 28th of December, 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's a Texas Bowl. My game with Florida State, that game goes on the 29th of December, and that's the Cheez-It Bowl. And I don't have an opening kickoff on time on that, but anyway, you have plenty of time to look that up before we talk the next time. Anyway, Doug, any final thoughts?
Yeah, Ross, it's, I don't know how many bowl games. I mean, the NFL was, took over things, just the way their games worked out on Saturday. But there was a number of good games on in the college bowl games, and now we start getting into even more of the meat and potatoes of what's going to go in. There's going to be some so bowl games going ahead, but you know what? So what? It's fun. Okay, you got a line on the game. You can bet them. It's just, I don't know. It's one of my favorite times of year. By far. With all these games. So love it. But, hey, we got other things going on as well. We have the, college basketball, little slow this week in terms, till you get on the other side of Christmas. But there's still some good matchups coming up this week. I had a nice weekend in college basketball. Just overall, hit a nice 6-unit play. Leaves me with who to be honest with you, who I even had on that one. So sorry about that.
Yeah.
But it was, nice win on that one. NBA picking it up again, and hockey continues to roll 25 and 12 recently, and inside of that number is 11-4 most recently. So good stuff, Ross.
Real good stuff. Real good stuff.
Why don't you let everybody know what's been going on with you?
Well, thank you, Doug. 2-0 so far in the bowl season, highlighted by Saturday's 10-star top play on Oregon State, -9 as they absolutely annihilated Florida 30-3. There's a perfect example of bowl season, folks. Oregon State, if this is the last regular season game of the year and Florida's playing at full strength, they're not going to be a 9-point favorite. So why talk about all the players of Florida are missing? It doesn't matter. It's built into the line. Okay, so 2-0 so far this college football bowl season. Plenty of bowl action coming up for me at my site at rbwins.com. First losing week in the NFL in the last 5 as I went 3-4 this week. I did go 2-0 on Saturday. Unfortunately, a tough day on Sunday. College basketball 24-15 since November 17th, good for 62.5%. The NBA since April 1st of this year, still rolling along at around 57%. So a lot of good stuff, a lot of money-making opportunities, not only with myself at rbwins.com, also with Doug Upstone at docsports.com as well. Doug, we'll be talking again on Thursday, and we're going to be talking NFL at that particular time. I'll have Sean Higgs tomorrow. We'll be talking another set of college football bowl games, so you don't want to miss that. Wednesday, Big Al will join me on the podcast. We'll be discussing the NFL. Also on Wednesday, Jesse Shule of jesseshule.com. He'll be with me as we'll also have 2 free picks in college football bowl games. And then, of course, Thursday, Doug Upstone back with us talking the NFL. Friday's going to be a down day, folks, as we approach the Christmas holiday. And then we'll resume 5 days a week again starting next Monday. So for Doug Upstone and Ross Benjamin, I'd like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. Take care and God bless, folks.